Hello friends! Groceries are getting crazy expensive and it is just harder and harder to really prepare meals on a budget. So we decided to take on the challenge of making Thanksgiving this year for $25 for our family. This is going to be quite the challenge. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go, but hopefully we can manage it. The basic premise of this is going to be, I'm going to try for $25 to have the classic Thanksgiving meal with turkey and dressing and a dessert and all the fixings. And we'll see how many of those fixings we have to tweak a little bit. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I guess we'll see today as we shop and then as we're preparing what we can finagle. This is going to be an interesting challenge, and I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Now, I'm not including pantry staples like flour, sugar, and basic spices. However, I will include in this cost milk and butter and eggs, because those things can really add up fast. I'm just considering that most people will have a cup of flour or a quarter cup of sugar or some salt or pepper in their cabinets ready to go. So we're gonna go, we're in a small little town and we don't have a ton of options, but we do have a store called 10 Box that we're gonna start in. We have Aldi and we have Walmart. And so we're gonna start at 10 Box and just see what kind of prices we can scrounge up. There's frequently really good deals here, but sometimes it's hit and miss. But I know at Aldi's and Walmart that we can really get some good deals, especially since it's November. They'll have a lot of their classic Thanksgiving meal stuff fairly cheap. One thing that's going to be a little tougher is usually I really enjoy making things from scratch. Sometimes when we're making budget meals, that's not going to be possible. So this is going to be an exercise in kind of giving and taking and seeing what we can do from scratch versus seeing what we need to buy in box mixes or whatever. So we'll just see what we can do, and we'll see what we can come up with for $25 for our family of 4. The other thing is, if you're making food for a larger family, it would be a lot cheaper, to buy the 15-pound bag of potatoes or to buy things in bulk. But for our purposes, we're going to be buying smaller things because that's going to fit within our budget. However, it's generally cheaper to buy the bigger packages over the long run. So let's run inside our first store. We're at 10 Box Cost Plus. Let's see, we've got cube stuffing, but I think probably for $2.25, I think I can get stuffing cheaper at Walmart, so we're gonna hold out. And we might be coming and going, we'll see. I have a list of the things that I'm going to try to make and some alternatives if that doesn't work out, and then I'm gonna kind of price check as I go. Celery is definitely more expensive, especially than at Aldi. Let's see, I need an orange for the cranberry sauce. I'm not sure if they'll have a good deal on an orange. It may just be cheaper at Walmart altogether to buy an orange. And again, an orange is one of those things that's gonna be cheaper to buy in bulk, but we're just gonna buy one. For the purposes of our experiment. 78 cents for an orange. Let's see. They're 88 cents at Walmart, but I have to take into account that this is plus 10% at 10 bucks, because that's the 10 bucks deal, is that the marked price on here, you add 10%, you add the cost, or you add the 10%, it's cost plus 10%. So this will be 85 cents, so it'll still be cheaper than the 88 cent one at Walmart. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab our orange here. 3 cents isn't a whole lot, but it adds up when you only have a $25 budget. I'm a little bummed because the potatoes were like $1 something last week, the 5-pound bags. This is still gonna be more expensive than Walmart. Now, if you were buying a 15-pound bag, this is a really amazing price for $5 for 15 pounds, but that would blow out our budget, so we're not going to do that today. All right, turkeys here are $1.68 a pound. Unless I can find a really small one, I won't get one here because I know at Walmart they're 99 cents a pound. Now, sometimes at Walmart you can only get huge ones, so that makes it a big difference. But yeah, these are all pretty big. And normally this would be a fairly decent price for a turkey, but I know I can get some cheaper options at Walmart. And I'm probably gonna have to do some figuring on how really to go about the turkey, because that is gonna be my single biggest expense. All right, Aldi's really has the best deal on yeast. Usually it's 80, 85 cents. This is still $1.12, so I'm gonna go with Aldi's probably for my yeast. And evaporated milk will be cheaper at Walmart as well. One of the things I'm really hoping I can maybe cut back on at $10 is gonna be the butter. Butter, I mean, I say that our biggest expense is the turkey overall, but kind of the biggest cash sink in this preparation is the butter. It is crazy how expensive butter is right now. So we're gonna see if I can get my dairy products cheaper here. Let's see, I only need a couple of eggs, and I know I can get a half a package at Walmart. That's probably gonna be my best bang there. Milk is gonna be by far cheaper at Walmart. Even for their little quarts is $1.86 here, and I know at Walmart I can get half a gallon for like $1. Let's see, how much was the half a gallon? $1.87. I can get a half a gallon for the same price I can get a quart here, so that's my best bet. Okay, butter. Here's where we cross our fingers and hope. $3.62.
Can you use margarine instead of butter?
No way.
Okay.
So
$1.25.
I know. So there are some compromises I'm gonna have to make today. One of the compromises I'm not gonna make is butter. I'm not gonna get margarine, even though margarine would be the cheaper alternative, but man, that's a hill I really wanna die on. I don't want margarine, I want real butter for our meal. So moving on, let's see what else we can find. That may be all. We might just end up with an orange, and that's okay. The other thing I wanna check is how much the canned pie filling is.
You guys doing all right today?
Yes, thank you.
Finding everything?
I am looking for like the pumpkin pie filling. Do you know where that would
absolutely
be? Thank you. Right on this row.
3 sections on your left.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, we've got some pie filling here. It looks like the cheapest pumpkin pie filling here is $1.47. And I know that I can get that at Walmart. Let's see, how much is that? So that's gonna be cheaper at Walmart still. This is one of those things. I would love to, in the perfect world, puree my own pumpkin and do it that way. However, it is going to be much more cost effective to get it in the can for this experiment purposes. So let's go ahead and, I don't know, the only thing I want to check are maybe some alternatives, see what they have in alternative to a big full turkey here, and see if there's any other options that we might have to come back and do a little bit of compromising on how we do the turkey. I'm not going to take away the turkey. We have to have a turkey for Thanksgiving, but there may be a different way to do it. There's fully cooked turkey wings here. I don't know how much they cost. That's all I see.
Well, it's like quarters.
Oh yeah, $3.35. Well, if we've got to come back and get a few of those, we can. All right, so here is our orange. Aha! So $10 was kind of a bust. Not really a bust, but not great. We're
saved 3 cents.
We saved 3 cents on an orange. So, but you know, every little bit counts, right? But we're here at Aldi. Now, Aldi typically has really good deals on produce, and they have delicious produce. And occasionally they'll have manager specials on things like butter and stuff. So we're gonna check Aldi and just see what we can see. I've got some ideas to cut some costs and cut some corners, and we'll see how we can fare. But so far, we have $24.14 left in our budget. So let's go see what damage we can do at Aldi. And look, somebody left their quarter in their baggie. The one thing I want to make sure we find here is I know they're having cranberries on sale for 99 cents for a package. So this is definitely the cheapest price for cranberries. Other than that, we're just going to see what we can do. Okay, so these Happy Harvest green beans are 49 cents for a can, and I'm going to go ahead and pick up a can of those. I know at Walmart they have bags of potatoes for, it looks like $2.48. So let's see how much the potatoes, the canned potatoes, because that would be an alternative. Okay, it's still looking like they're going to be 95 cents. They're not on sale, so I'm going to hold off. We may still do canned potatoes, but we'll see what they are at Walmart, because 95 cents. I'm going to write that down though, just so I know in case we have to come back. They have turkey cranberry ravioli. We could do that instead of turkey. That's probably cheating a little. We killed two birds with one stone with that. He doesn't have the microphone, but he just said, please no. So I know the baking stuff is gonna be cheaper here. So let's get a few of the baking things. And really consistently, if you need yeast, like Aldi is the place to get it. And this is another one of those things, like I said, if I was doing this on my own, I would probably choose some different options. There would be, like I could use my sourdough starter, we can use some of our canned vegetables from the garden, but for the purposes of this, I wanted to demonstrate kind of how to really make it work with $25 total. All right, here we are. Active dry yeast for 79 cents. That is even cheaper than I had on my list, so we are going for it. 79 cents, there we go. Awesome. Now let's look at the pumpkin puree. Check this out. It is $1.19. That is even cheaper than I have on my list. And we can't even buy a whole pumpkin or any kind of squash to make this, so we're gonna go ahead and get this. Now, the thing that is gonna cost a little bit of money here is the evaporated milk, but that's just money we've got to spend if we're gonna make the pie. I am gonna make my own pie crust, because in the long run, I think it'll be cheaper. I will look and see the options for pie crusts, but I think it's gonna be cheaper to make our own. If I were evaporated milk, where would I be? Oh, right in front of my face.
I was gonna say.
Oh, listen you, 89 cents for evaporated milk. That is an amazing price. So, evaporated milk here too. Again, normally I would make my own stuffing, but this stuffing mix is 75 cents. So we're gonna go with some turkey flavored stuffing mix here. What do I need to make it though? That also, so it's gonna take a 1/4 cup of butter. So as long as we make sure we get our butter in, this really is gonna be the way to go as far as our stuffing goes. And I've really found that the Aldi's brand things, they taste really great. So, you know, even though we're giving a little on the completely homemade stuff, it's still not gonna be horrible. I think this is gonna be a good option for us. So 75 cents for our stuffing mix here. I still haven't found those sale cranberries, but we'll hunt them down, we'll find them. So $3.29 for butter is gonna be a really great option. But what I'm also noticing is for 2 sticks, I can get half the butter for $2.19. I need to make sure real quick though that I only need 2 sticks. So that's a really good deal on really great butter, but my pie crust takes 2 whole sticks of butter, so, but I'm only need to do half my pie crust because it's a double pie crust.
$3.19 per pound.
I think I can get away with this two sticks of butter with half the butter. I think I can do this, and then that saves me a whole $1. So let's do this, and it's better butter. So we're gonna go $2.19 for 8 ounces of butter. All right, now let's look at the milk options. I don't need a lot of milk, maybe just a cup of milk for our mashed potatoes. Let's see what we've got. $1.87, which is the same price as it is at Walmart. Man, I wish there was a smaller container for less. There is not. Yeah, I may wait till Walmart just to see. It's the same price, and I might be able to get away with a smaller container at Walmart. All of these little bitty corners cut might allow us to get a whole turkey. It just depends on how much they cost when we get there, because even though I know they're 99 cents a pound, it's going to be hard to find one that's small enough to really make it worth our while to do. So we'll see. Okay, here's turkeys, $1.27 a pound. Okay, so the 3-pound turkey breasts are $11.99. I'm gonna go ahead and write that down because we may come back here if we can't find what we're looking for at Walmart. We may come back here and get one of these. But here's my thing about that is it's more cost effective generally to buy the whole turkey. However, like we said before, we don't need the whole turkey, so we'll see what we can come up with. These are going to be about $20 a bird because they're huge. So that is more, that's just going to bust our budget completely open. So we can't do that right now. Oh, check out the fully cooked turkeys. We definitely can't afford that, but that's convenient. Nice smoked fully cooked turkeys. All right, the thing that I didn't find that we need to look for is the 99-cent cranberries. They're hiding somewhere. Blueberries, blackberries. I kind of feel like they're probably sunning out in front of my face somewhere. Oh, here they are. Here we go, 99-cent cranberries. All right, that's the last thing I needed here. All right, so it looks like we are at, we spent $7, about $7, a little more than $7 in Aldi. We got some amazing deals in Aldi though. So total so far we have spent $8.15, which leaves us with $16.85 going into Walmart. So still going into Walmart, we need turkey, some form of turkey. We need potatoes. We need a cup of milk for the mashed potatoes, and we need some eggs. So that's not a lot of things left to get. However, the turkey is going to be the big ticket item, and it's probably going to take up most of that $16 we have left. But we'll see, and we'll see what kind of deals, what kind of, I don't know. We'll see what we can do with this. Let's go see how we can finagle it. So here's the problem with these huge ones is that they're huge. And so even though they're 98 cents a pound, we still are looking at $20 whole. Maybe we can find some smaller options. It's still going to be cheaper to go back to Aldi's and get the $12 turkey. Okay, this one is $12.20. So this looks like our winner here. The other benefit of getting a whole turkey is that it's going to have a gravy packet mix. Here's our little pack of 72-cent eggs. That's going to be our best bet. So the rest of our stuff is going to deal with potatoes. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick tally and see how much money we have left. That's going to determine how we do potatoes. All right, we have $3.93 left in our budget. We're going to see if we can make actual mashed potatoes with that instead of buying a box mix. I know the box mix will be cheaper, but if I can have real mashed potatoes, I'm all for that. So let's try to do that. All right, I'm going to get a little thing for $1.18 and see if we can find potatoes. So we've got the milk, we've got the butter. Now I have $2.75 to get the potatoes. Let's see what we can find. The last thing on our list is these potatoes for $2.38. And that means if I've calculated correctly, we're gonna end up with 38 cents left in our budget. We did it. We did it, y'all. We did it.
Hi, we're having like our 12th turkey this month. And we don't want any more. And there's more. And even more.
Yeah, well, that's the downside of having to do things early to get them on camera for y'all, is that we had fried turkey for Daddy. We had a practice fried turkey. We have this turkey. Then we have Thanksgiving with one side of the family. Then we have Thanksgiving with the other side of the family. So we're having lots of turkey. All right, so we are back from the grocery store. Today is cooking day and eating day, yay! And I am just over the moon. Now I will say one thing I ran back for is an onion, because I had like 40 6 cents left and the onion was 37 cents. So now I have 9 cents left in my budget.
That's a big onion.
I know, it's massive. There's not really anything I can get for 9 cents, at least that I found, but this is gonna add to our green beans. We're gonna do some fun. So for our grand total of $24.91, we got some milk for the mashed potatoes and the gravy.
Just the milk. It's
milk.
milk. That little thing of milk was $24.91.
We got some eggs. We got butter. Half of my butter is already in the freezer because, well, we're making pie crust, and I'll show you that in a little bit. We got an orange, an onion. We got our stuffing mix. We got our cranberries, our yeast, pumpkin pie filling, and evaporated milk to make our pie.
You almost threw that.
I almost threw it. Green beans, our whole turkey, and last but not least, the potatoes. She's, okay. Well, she's gonna make them, so. So, we've got everything. So, now is time to start the process. We're gonna be making pumpkin pie with crust from scratch. We're gonna be making cranberry sauce. We're going to be making the turkey, giblet gravy. We're gonna be making mashed potatoes, rolls, stuffing, and some yummy green beans. So, are y'all ready, girls?
Yep.
Yeah? All right, let's get cooking. We've got 6 hours until dinner, so here we go. All right, and I'm gonna kind of give you some timestamps. We're working towards a 6 o'clock dinner tonight, and we're starting at noon. It is noon right now. And so the first thing I'm gonna start with is the pie crust. Now, you can do this the day before and have it ready to go, but we're doing it all in one fell swoop. So here we go. This is a super simple 3-ingredient pie crust. It's just flour, butter, and cold water. So that's all you need for this pie crust. And I'm gonna link the recipe down below, but because we're doing a pumpkin pie that doesn't have a top layer on it, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this in half. That's what allowed me to get the butter for cheaper, because I knew I didn't need all of the butter for it, because I didn't need to do 2 whole pieces of the pie. So this is cut in half from what you're reading. So I'm gonna have 1.25 cups of flour, and I'm gonna go ahead and sift that into a bowl. Now this is already really fine flour, but it's always good when you're making a pastry like this to sift the flour. It really does help the texture of it when it's all done. Now I'm gonna stick this flour in the freezer for just a few minutes while I grate the butter. Now the butter has been in the freezer for about an hour or 2. It's always better, it's easier to grate your butter and to get that really, you know, those clumps into the mixture that make for a really flaky, delicious pie crust if it's frozen. If it's not frozen, it just doesn't grate well. It's just challenging to work with. So it's always good to freeze it for a little bit before you start to do this. So I'm gonna put this into the freezer while I grate the frozen butter. And the original recipe calls for 1 cup of butter, but because I'm cutting this in half, it's just half a cup, which is 1 stick. And I'm using just this box grater because it's quick, and using the biggest holes on it. All right, once it gets a little too small to safely run it over the grater, you can just chop that little bit up with a knife. Now, the only other thing that you want to have on hand is 1/4 to 1/2 cup of really cold ice water here. And now we're going to get the flour back out of the freezer. And I'm going to add this butter to this flour. Now be careful, the butter is going to melt with your hand, the skin temperature of your hands. So try to be as ginger as you can with it. And then you just want to take a spoon and not really stir it, but kind of toss it like a salad until it's pretty evenly mixed. And if you're like me, you're making a big floury mess everywhere, but that's okay. That's part of what baking is about, right? Big floury messes. Now I'm gonna take 2 to 3 spoonfuls of this cold water, and I'm gonna put it in the dough. And I'm gonna take a fork and I'm gonna mix it with a fork. And you just wanna keep adding spoonfuls until this mixture comes together. And your goal is to be when you can lightly pinch it and it comes together as a dough. That's kind of the level of hydration that you're looking for. This really is a simple recipe, and it's oh so quick. Other than the time it takes to chill, we are gonna put this in the fridge when we're done for 2 hours. So that really is, the planning of it is the hardest thing. It's just to make sure you have it done in time for your pie to be ready. But as far as just doing it and the ingredients it takes to make it, it's way simple. And that's one of the things about budget cooking, really. You can have all sorts of fancy recipes, and there's a time and a place for having recipes that call for a billion ingredients and doing a big fancy meal like that. But it is always really beneficial to learn how to cook with just a few staples and really learn how to do things well with a couple of staples, because that is how you can save money, because then you can buy those staples in bulk and really be able to do so much with them. So do the fun things, experiment with all the fun ways you can cook things, but be sure to really master that art of cooking with just a few things. And you want to lightly flour your surface once this is getting to where it's sticking together, and turn the dough out on that surface. You don't want to over knead this, because that defeats the purpose of kind of chopping the butter up like we did. We want those flaky layers, but we do want it to hold together. So you're gonna knead this into a ball, and then you want to flatten it out into like a disc that's about 6 inches in diameter. So about like this. And I'm gonna just take some plastic wrap. You can use beeswax cloth. If you don't like to use plastic wrap, that's fine. This is just what I have around. And you're gonna put the dough in the plastic wrap and wrap it up. And this dough is just gonna rest in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Now, like I said, you can make this the day before and let it rest overnight, and that is totally fine, but at least 2 hours in the fridge. So it is 12:30, this is going in the fridge, and now it's time for Michaela to make her cranberry sauce.
All right, so this is my favorite Thanksgiving treat, cranberry sauce. We usually get the canned stuff. So today we're gonna try the homemade stuff. So we need oranges. We're gonna squeeze our own half a cup of orange juice. We need 1 cup of sugar, 12 ounces of fresh cranberries, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a cup of water, and a spoon. We need a medium saucepan. We're gonna bring this stuff to a boil. We need sugar, water, and I'm gonna squeeze my own orange. All right, and now we're gonna bring this all to a boil, and then we'll mix in our other stuff. Stir this around real quick. All right. So our stuff is boiling, and I'm just gonna give it a little stir real quick. So I'm going to put the cranberries in. I'm gonna mix this up a little. We're gonna let this simmer again for medium-high heat, and every 10 to 15 minutes, stir it until this stuff thickens up. Oh, Mom, this looks so good.
Yeah, that does look yummy. Good job. Ooh.
All right, so this is finished, and it is nice and thick. So now that this is thickened up, we are going to turn the heat off. Stir it around just a little bit. So we're going to allow this to cool completely, and then we're going to cover it up and refrigerate it until it is ready to serve.
All right, it's 2 o'clock, and so next we're gonna start on the pumpkin pie. So the first thing that we're going to want to do for this is to get the eggs and the pumpkin together. So this, I'm going to beat 2 eggs, yes, into this. And next we are going to open this up and get the pumpkin in there. And whisk that around. Okay, and now in a separate bowl, we are going to pour in our spices. So we have got sugar, and that'll be 3/4 cup of sugar. A teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt and of ground ginger. Give that a good stir. All right, next we have our spices mixed up, and we're going to add that into the pumpkin mixture. Last but not least, we are going to stir in a can of evaporated milk. Slowly pouring it in and whisking that around. Okay, so we have our pumpkin pie mixture mixed up. So next, what we're gonna have to do is roll out our pumpkin pie crust dough and get that in this dish. So what we're going to do for that is I'm going to get a little bit of flour out on the counter, and then we're also going to put some flour on this rolling pin, and then we're just going to start rolling this out. You want this to be about the size of your pan so it fits in and stuff. Okay, that's good. All right, so this is about the size I want. And next, we're just going to put this into here and just move it around to fit the edges. All right, there's our pie crust, and now we are just going to pour in the pie mixture. Then we're going to bake this in the oven. How this is gonna go, we're gonna bake it at 425 for 15 minutes. And then once it's done with that, we're gonna lower the temperature to about 350 and bake it for about 50 more minutes. So it will be in the it will be in the oven for about an hour total. So we're gonna go get that in.
All right, it's a little before 3 o'clock, so now it's time to get our turkey in the oven so it's got plenty of time to cook. I'm going to use this roasting pan this time. We did last year show you how to use your oven and cook your turkey in the oven, but this allows us to have things baking at the same time. So it saves us a little bit of time, but if you don't have one of these, it's not a big deal. You just might have to stretch out your day a little bit so you can juggle your oven. No biggie. After I measured out the butter for my pie crust and my stuffing and saved a little back for my mashed potatoes, I have about 2 tablespoons for the turkey. Now normally I would put more than that on my turkey, but because we're doing this on a budget, I'm just gonna use the 2 tablespoons because that's what I have available. And this is super simple. You just wanna take whatever butter you have. This is gonna make the crust nice and beautiful. And you just brush it on. It's as easy as that. And this is gonna give it that nice caramelization on the skin. And I'm gonna use every bit of that butter. Make sure I get this guy good and coated. Then I'm gonna take a little bit of salt, and you can really put whatever seasonings you want on it, or no seasonings at all. And I'm just gonna sprinkle the salt over it. You can do salt and pepper, you can do thyme, any kind of seasonings. But we're doing a really basic kind of thing this time. Now, before you put your turkey in, you want to check and see what all is inside your turkey. One of the reasons I was really excited to get a whole turkey instead of just like a turkey breast or turkey thighs or something to cook for y'all is because it comes with extras, and that in itself is going to save us money in the long run when making gravy and things. So I already have, this turkey came with 2 whole packs of this turkey gravy. If it weren't for this, I would have to buy a little more butter and, you know, use some flour and all the things. And then it also came with giblets. It came with the turkey neck was inside of here, and there's this bag that has the organs, and we are gonna make giblet gravy using those things, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But for now, you wanna make sure those are not in the cavity anymore before you put it in here. All right, my roaster is set at 400 degrees, and I'm gonna take this lid off, and the trivet is already down in there. And just gonna pick it up. Mine has a handle, not all of them do. Now I'm gonna cook it for 1 hour at 400 degrees. And then I'm gonna turn that temperature down to 350. What that does is it gets that skin to kind of crisp up really quickly so it doesn't end up soggy. And generally turkeys need to be cooked for 10 to 13 minutes per pound. This is a 12 to 13 pound turkey, so it's going to take us a little over 2.5 hours to cook it. But the most important thing, because things can happen that affect the cooking time and that affect how fast it cooks and things like that, you want to check the internal temperature. And the internal temperature of that turkey, you want to be at 170 when you pull it out. All right, I'm gonna set my timer for 1 hour, and while that's going, we are gonna talk about this giblet gravy. All right, so I have this saucepan that's got some water in it, and I'm gonna put in first the turkey neck, and then inside this bag, typically you have a heart and a liver. The turkey heart is going to be the one that looks muscly, almost like a pair of lungs, and you're gonna put that in there. You can add the liver later, but you don't want to add the liver right now, because if you boil the liver for as long as we're going to boil these, the liver is going to make the whole mix a little bitter. Now, if you want to use the liver, you can add it when there's like 30 minutes left, but I'm going to leave it out because this is a great treat for our big outside dog. He loves these. So that is going to be an amazing treat for Zeus. But we're going to take these over the stove, and we're gonna boil the turkey neck and the turkey heart. Once they start boiling, we'll turn it down to a simmer, and we'll let these simmer for about 2 hours. And while those are cooking, I'm gonna fill my small saucepan with water and set it to boil so that I can cook a couple of hard-boiled eggs. All right, my giblets are boiling here, so I'm gonna turn that down to a simmer and keep an eye on that for 2 hours. And now my smaller pot is boiling, and I'm gonna go ahead and put in my 2 eggs to hard boil. Now, hard-boiled egg takes about 9 minutes, so we're gonna set our timer for 9 minutes and come back here when they're done. All right, that timer rang for those eggs, so let's turn this off and put them in a ice water bath here. Several people do this in different ways. This is just a good way to cool them off fast, because if you just let them sit on the counter, they'll really keep cooking on the inside. So this gets them cooled down and stopped cooking real fast. So we're gonna take them over here, we're gonna peel them, and we're gonna cut them up. All right, we wanna peel these eggs. And just crack the top of them, and the peel comes off really, really easy. If you're so inclined, you can save your eggshells. You can dry them out, and then you can use them in your garden. They make a great calcium supplement. All right, now I'm just gonna chop these up into little chunks, and you can chop them up however big you like them. They're gonna go in our gravy, and this is making that typical Southern giblet style gravy with boiled eggs. And now we're gonna put these just in a little container so I can stick them in the fridge until it's time to heat up that gravy and go.
All right, so our pie is out of the oven. It went in there for 15 minutes and then we lowered the heat and put it back in for another 50 minutes. So it's been through that. And we actually had to put it in for an extra 10 minutes because it wasn't done all the way when we did that. But it's done now and it looks and smells great. And in just a few minutes, I'll be starting on the mashed potatoes.
Fred the turkey is suspicious of what's going on inside here. He's not too happy. He's like, are you cooking my cousin?
Okay, so next we're gonna be making mashed potatoes. This is a super easy thing that I do all the time. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut up these potatoes. I'm using the whole bag for this, and cut them up and put them into this pot, which is filled about halfway full with water. And what we're gonna do is you boil them until they're soft, and basically if you can slide a fork through it without any pushback, if you could just slide it in, then they're cooked all the way through. So once we do that, we're gonna drain all the water out and then mash them. We're gonna pour in some milk and butter to taste kinda. So at this point, before you start cutting them up, you can either skin them or leave them with their skins on. For time's sake, I'm gonna leave them with their skins on, but if you do that, you want to make sure that you wash them off really good. So I'm just gonna start cutting these up and get them in here. And smaller pieces of these, if you cut them into smaller pieces, they will cook faster. All right, so these are all cut up and they're in this pot. So now we are going to go put them on the stove and let them boil.
All right, it is 5:15 exactly because I just heard the clock chime. But now we're starting my 30-minute dinner rolls. My sis Taylor's potatoes are on the stove, so we're gonna start these. So first we need to preheat the oven to 400. I've already done that and it is warming up. So in this bowl, we're gonna put a cup of warm water, just tap water. Doesn't have to be boiled on the stove. We're going to put a 1/3 cup of oil. So now we're going to add our sugar. So we need a 1/4 cup of sugar. Now for those of you who don't know, bread making is my thing. Every Christmas or Thanksgiving, I always make some kind of bread and I love doing it. And we do best of wheat every year. And this year I went to state, got 3rd place, excited about that. This is not that same recipe though, because that recipe takes like 3 hours. So now we're just gonna add 1 package of fast rising instant yeast. We're just gonna let this set till it's bubbly. And it's gonna be about 8 minutes. You don't really wanna stir the yeast much. Just maybe a tad bit if it gets stuck on the side of the bowl just to get it off. But we're gonna let that set for 8 minutes and I will see you back when this is done. All right, so our yeast is nice and bubbly. What it means by bubbly is like this. Now we're going to stir this up just a little bit. And we're gonna add flour 1 cup at a time. So you can do this by hand or with a spoon, stand mixer, whatever you want. You just need to make sure it's all nice and mixed up. So this says 3 to 4 cups of flour, and it says until you have a soft dough that isn't that sticky. So we go. Here's 1. You don't want to like whisk really hard, or if you're using a stand mixer, you don't want to set it on the full high setting. I was making croissants and it was the opposite. You did want to beat it up. You took the rolling pin and just smacked it. This is number 2. Speaking of croissants, it is a long process, and if you want croissants, for me it took 3 or 4 days. But it was worth it, even though it did not make, it only made 7. It was delicious. I like using a silicone spatula when I do this part because it helps like get under the sticky stuff and like scoop the flour off the sides easier. And it's getting to the point where it isn't very sticky, but it's also getting harder to mix because of all the flour. So at this point you can use your hands. Just make sure they're super clean. Cleaned mine off just a minute ago. You just want to kind of fold the flour into the dough. I just noticed I was supposed to add the eggs, salt, and butter before I added in the flour, but it doesn't really matter because it's all going to get mixed in. It's just a little easier if you do it before you add the flour. So I'm going to add my salt in. It's half a teaspoon of this. And then a tablespoon of softened butter. And now this recipe calls for 1 egg. We want to beat this up before we put it in. So I'm going to put it in a separate bowl, beat it up, especially since the dough is already mixed and it'll be hard to break it up. Mix this up. And now we're gonna pour our eggs in. I'm just gonna fold that over and mix it up. And like I said a minute ago, since I forgot these, this is probably why it said 3 or 4. So I'm probably gonna add the 4th cup of flour. After this, I'm gonna use my hands since this is kind of tough. And I'm gonna make sure I wash them after. This is sticky. All right, we have that mixed up, and now we're gonna add 4th cup of flour. All right. Mix this up till it doesn't stick to my hands so bad, and then I'll get my hands dirty again. All right. Mix this in there good. All right, I'm gonna wash my hands real quick and then we'll get on to the next step now that we are all cut up. All right, so now we are going to split this lump of dough up into 18 equal parts. We're gonna make little balls of them on our baking sheet. I have a little silicone mat to put on here. I'm gonna knead it just a tad bit more. Just know the more you knead it, the tougher it'll be. But I think it's safe to knead it a little more. And it's not like if you knead it one more time, then you should. It's gonna turn into a hard rock roll. I like using these little bread cutter things. I have gotten a few from Best of Wheat. We've gotten a few just because we have my mom got a sourdough bread kit and those came in. So I'm just gonna roll this out into a log almost, about the thickness of the way we want the rolls to be thick, because then they're all evenly same size mostly. I have my piece here, and I think I'm gonna roll it out just a little more for it to be good. Doesn't matter if it's perfectly smooth, but you don't want most of the cracks out. All right, let's cut this up. You may have to stretch it a little bit as you cut. Just make sure you have enough space. Okay, so I ended up with 9 rolls. That is okay. We're just gonna make sure these are little balls. Another way to, if you really want smooth rolls, is to kind of flatten them out a bit and just pinch them together like a little balloon and stretch it out like that. And then you still have your little round shape, but it's a nice smooth roll. All right, so we have our 9 rolls, is what I have. It's like delicious. We'll just let this set in a warm place, covered for about 10 minutes to let these rise a little more, and I will see you when these are done.
All right, it's time to take this turkey out and give it a test. And it looks really good. All right, we're gonna test this and make sure that we are at the temperature we need, which is 170. We are here and we're gonna test a few places just to make sure. I think we're good everywhere. Our temperature on our bird is just perfect. I'm gonna pass this over to Lance and he's gonna cut this up for us. If you want detailed cutting instructions, we have a how to carve a turkey in 3 easy steps video, and I will link that down. That shows close-ups and really simple carving. But for today, we're gonna punt it over to Taylor and she is gonna get
Mashed potatoes.
our mashed potatoes finished.
All right, so the potatoes are now cooked. So the next thing that we're going to do is pour them into the strainer and get them strained. And then we can add the milk and the butter. And then we'll be done with those. All right, boom, drained. And so the next thing that we are going to do is mash them up. And I'm gonna go ahead and dump in some milk. And how much milk and butter you add just depends on your personal preference. I think I'm probably gonna end up using this whole thing of milk. And in goes the butter. All right, there's our mashed potatoes. So now all we gotta do is put it in the serving bowl. And I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to that. All right, there's our mashed potatoes that we had to upsize into a bigger bowl because there's so much of it. It's okay, it'll get eaten.
All right, so our rolls have been setting for 10 minutes and our oven is preheated to 400. We usually butter egg wash these, but we're just gonna do an egg wash today, which is perfect because we have exactly 1 egg left for our budget Thanksgiving. So all you're gonna do is mix up this egg good. Take a fork or baby whisk. I had a tiny whisk once, I don't know where it went. And we're just gonna mix it up, break up the yolk. And I have this little silicone brush to use. You can use bristle brush, whatever works for you. All we're gonna do is brush the egg over the rolls. What this egg does is gives it a nice brown top. It's not like really dark brown, but makes it look very nice. Let's put them in the oven. This will go in for about 10 to 12 minutes.
All right, so now we're rounding the finish line. We just have a couple of things left. First, we're gonna go for our stuffing, and this just, it couldn't be simpler. Remember we got this really super cheap box of stuffing, and it calls for 1.5 cups of water, and then a 1/4 cup of butter, which is the last little bit of our butter. And we're gonna melt the butter in here and bring that to a boil. But while we're doing that, we are gonna start heating up the green beans. If you remember, I got this lonely can of green beans from Aldi, and I didn't have enough in my budget to get 2 green beans, so we're gonna dress them up a little bit with what we have. I'm gonna take the drippings from the turkey, and I'm gonna put them in this little pot, and I'm gonna take, this is only like 1/3 of that huge onion that we had, and I'm gonna put this in here and kind of cook these down. And I'm gonna put them on this back burner, and while that's cooking, I'm gonna get the gravy heating up, because the green beans are really not gonna take long to heat. The biggest thing is I want those onions a little bit mushy. And we'll make sure we're still stirring this. I'm gonna put the lid on it so it'll boil a little quicker. All right, now really the last thing is this giblet gravy. We're gonna cut the meat from around the bone of the neck, maybe even just pull it because it's very tender after cooking for 2 hours. And I'm gonna put it in there. And you wanna make sure you got fairly small pieces. You don't want big chunks in your gravy. But this adds a whole lot of flavor. Then I'm gonna cut the heart up into teeny tiny little pieces. The heart is just a muscle, so it's really just a meaty part, but it is extremely good for you. All right, there are our giblets. Okay, we're back at the stove, and this pot for the stuffing is boiling. So we are gonna turn the heat off, and we're gonna add this stuffing mix in. I'm gonna fluff it with a fork just a little bit to get all of the little stuffing cubes completely saturated. Then I'm just gonna move it to the back of the stove and let it set for 5 minutes. In the meantime, let's check on these. They look good, and that sounds like Michaela's rolls. So I am gonna pull those out since I'm standing right here. Oh my goodness. They do look delicious. Let's work on our gravy. So we need 1.5 cups of liquid per gravy packet. This is concentrated. But the good news is we've got plenty of liquid, both in the liquid that we boiled the giblets in and how we cooked the turkey. There's a lot of drippings in the bottom. So I'm gonna gather some of that liquid up. We will need 3 cups total because we're using 2 of these packets. But I'm gonna let this start heating. All right, we've got 3 cups of this liquid drippings, and this is just liquid gold as far as flavor is concerned. And we're gonna heat this to a boil and then simmer it for 5 minutes. And we're gonna add in our giblets and our eggs. These are starting to get a little soft, which is a good thing. So now I'm actually gonna drain these green beans so that they can soak up the juices from here. Then we'll add a little salt and pepper to spice them up a little bit. And then give them a stir and let them heat through all the way. You know, I was really hoping to have enough to get some fresh green beans, but this will be the next best thing. We're boiling, and I'm gonna turn this down to just a simmer, and we're gonna simmer this for about 5 minutes. And these green beans really look ready to go. So I'm gonna plate them up. This still isn't wanting to thicken up, so I added just a little bit of flour, and this is turning into a much nicer consistency. So I'm just whisking in just a little bit of flour. All right, this is about the right consistency. So now I am going to pot it up in my beautiful gravy boat that one of my daughters got me for Christmas. And that's the last thing. So let's head over to the table and see what we came up with for our $25 Thanksgiving. And I don't know about you, but I am just thrilled with the amount and the quality of food that I was able to put on the table with just $25. A lot of times we've got to cut corners and do some things, and I wasn't really actually sure when I started this experiment what this was going to look like, but I'd say it's hard to tell that we did this on a budget. This looks like just a normal classic Thanksgiving meal. Thank you so much for joining us on this little adventure. We hope that you will like this video if you got something out of it. Subscribe to our channel and join us for all of our fun homesteading adventures. Thank you so much and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.